So when known like bulge bracket or known like your Canadian Big Six ask you why us, how can you answer that it doesn't sound too like made up, but it's also kind of shows that, you know, because they're like just middle market. They cover the majority of the companies they cover is like small to mid-size. They do have a quite a good research kind of department, and I've read some of the research reports where I can like fall back onto that. But is there anything else I should kind of tell them if they ask me like why us? Why should you pick us?
You're saying for Canadian big six banks?
No, so they're this one is like they're I think they're middle market. They're not big six.
Okay, so how to answer why our bank for a middle market bank?
Yes.
Yeah, so couple things. Uh, Typically for why our bank, like the best thing to do, regardless of what kind of bank it is hopefully you've networked with at least like one or two people there, and hopefully during that conversation you at some point ask them, what they like about working there, um, and you just kind of like take what the employees have told you and weave that into your answer, right? Like if you can say, spoke to so and so and they mentioned how they've had a really great experience because of XYZ, or they've gotten to work on all these cool deals because blah blah blah, or they really like this aspect of the culture or whatever, then um, that's always something that you should try to do. Um, and the reason is like honestly, for a lot of these banks, I mean, like every bank asks this question, but like if we're being completely honest about it, like these banks are all pretty similar. Like people think they have to like come up with some very unique, mind blowing answers, but it's just like it's not really like possible 9 out of 10 times, right? I mean, like unless you've like actually worked there, like and you have some like unique insights. Like for example, every time people ask me like, "Hey Sam, I have an interview with Morgan Stanley Menlo Park. Like, what should I say about why I want to work there?" I can give them some like very unique insights because I actually worked there, right? So I know certain things that like most people wouldn't know, but like you can't be expected to know that. And so weaving in what their own employees are saying is basically, I would say, like the most, like it's the best and most genuine way to make your answer sound like it's specific to this firm, right? Other things you could do, um, sometimes like people say, well, I haven't had time to network with anyone. So like, is there anything else I can do? Um, One thing that I always recommend people do sometimes is, assuming it's like a reputable enough firm, which it sounds like it is, um, a lot of times like the really senior people at the firm, or you like, look up who their CEO is, or who is the head of the investment banking, or head of like whatever, right? Like just like look up some of the really senior folks, and you can just Google or even go on YouTube or go on like all the different podcasting platforms. I would check all three and see if they've done any sort of interviews, right? Sometimes like these senior guys, they do interviews and they talk about the company, or they talk about their vision, or they talk about certain things, and just by like gleaning that from the interviews that they did, it's you can weave that into your answers. It's as if you networked with that person. It's like, oh, I really liked how, the CEO said XYZ about the firm because, obviously culture comes from the top down, and this is exactly the type of leader that I want to work for, right? For example, I just made that up, but so that's another thing you could do. It's like look up like if anyone notable has done any interviews, and if they have any like usable talking points. Um, Otherwise, if it's just like why middle market and why not like sometimes I ask like, well, why do you want to work for a middle market bank and not like a bulge bracket or not a elite boutique or whatever. There's different things you can say. Uh, you can say like, want to work in. I mean, these are all kind of honestly kind of cookie cutter, but like they're fine. It's like want to work in like smaller, leaner deal team, right? I want to work with um, like obviously the clients that you're working with are going to be smaller as well, but like, there's always pros and cons to everything, right? Like the one benefit of that could be that, every transaction that you're advising them on is actually like even more consequential for the client. It's more, could be like even more transformative, right? Like relative to the size of the company, like $100 million deal for a middle market company versus $100 million deal for like a huge company is like, it doesn't even move the needle for the big company, right? So you could say something along those lines. You could say, I mean, I've seen people say like, my parents are like, you can try to find something personal about your own background and your upbringing and try to tie it back to that. So for example, some people say, um, like my parents were entrepreneurs, or like they were business, they were small business owners. And I grew up watching like just how invested they were in their business, and like, as the founders of the company, and just trying to build a business from the ground up. And um, I just think that it would be really, really rewarding to be able to work with other founders who, are also trying to build their business, and it's like their baby, and you're basically giving them advice about that, right? Versus, because like a lot of the big companies that you would advise, at the bulge bracket or elite boutique level, these are like Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies. They hire like professional management teams. Like it's very rare that those companies are run by like founders. I mean, sure, there are companies like, Facebook still run by Mark Zuckerberg, and you know, Tesla's run by Elon Musk and whatever. But like, those are the exceptions and not the rule, right? So you can say something like that about how it's just like, I think it's more rewarding to um, work with kind of like founder-led companies. Um, Trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, those are probably like some of the more common answers off the top of my head. But you just, and honestly, you don't even really need that many reasons, right? I would say like if you can have like just 3 talking points, it's great. But like if you can't, worst case scenario, like you only have one thing to say, like it's not the end of the world, But you just have it's not even just about what you say. It's about your delivery and how you say it. Like you have to have conviction when you're answering this question. If you don't have conviction when you're answering this question, then it's very obvious that you would just much rather work for a bulge bracket bank or a elite boutique bank, and then like it's not going to be believable, right? So a lot of that is in your like tonality and your delivery, and like how firm you are when you say these things. And like obviously, I think most people would rather work for a bigger bank if they can, but like, in an interview setting, you kind of have to be able to act a little bit, I guess, Hollywood, basically. Does that make sense? Is that helpful?
Yes, it does.
Hey there, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're looking for more customized advice that's tailored for your specific situation, then I invite you to book a free strategy session with our team at the link below. We'll talk to you soon.